Man of Steel is a movie that I've always hated. And I really wanted to give this movie a fair shot because this is a movie that I probably have not seen since I don't even know when. It's been a really long time. I saw this movie in the theater when I was a kid. I hate it. I remember watching this movie as a kid and getting to that climactic ending scene, which honestly, but even when this movie came out, everybody hated. Even the people who liked it seemed to be like, man, why is these just destroying cities? Like, it looks like 9/11 times 10. Like, what the fuck is going on here? This is ridiculous. The Zod snapping the neck thing felt like controversial, where some people liked it, some people didn't. But that was the one thing from that people hated. I didn't even hate the destruction of the city as a kid. What I really hated was he kept punching him, Zod, and he kept getting back up. And that was just over and over and over again. And the action scenes were too fucking long. And so the movie was long and it was boring. Where this time rewatching this movie, I just hate this movie more. And there's just so much fundamentally wrong with this movie that it's kind of hard to explain. I'm going to do my best to talk about this movie fair, because I've really just overly hated on this movie for the longest time. But at the same time, if there's any movie to do it to, it's this movie. It's not good. I think I've grown a little bit with the Zack Snyder movies, where like once I saw Zack Snyder's Justice League, I got to a point where I was like, okay, so this is this guy's vision of these characters. I don't like it. I get it. It's kind of they're there and they do their own thing. But in saying all that, they're still terrible movies. Like, I understand that he had a point he was going to get to. Warner Brothers mangled with these movies. But this is the one that you don't hear about a lot of mangling with the movie. And this is one of the worst ones. And that should tell you everything you need to know about his movies in the DC universe. They're not good. And there's just no way to really change that just fact in this way. I say fact, but it's all subjective, I guess, because it's a movie, technically. But let's be real. They're not good. Don't even try to pretend. I know they have an audience. If you love this movie, whatever. Let's talk about what works. Hans Zimmer's score is actually pretty good. The flight sequence is pretty cool. With that score kicking, it was just great. Henry Cavill was a good choice physically and for the physicality. And if he got to do more and been more of a positive light Superman, I think I could have really grown to like him in the role. But unfortunately, I never really got to, because Warner Bros. Fucked around with him so much. But that's just the honest truth. Like, he's the right choice for physicality and vibe for like an old school Superman. But the version that they chose here is just like, fuck. And Zod, I think, he was actually pretty much what I would expect a new version of Zod to be, and I actually kind of liked him in this movie. I say new version, but I meant because he was in the original Superman movies. And, I thought that worked really well. Like, that was probably a good choice. But everything else about this movie is pretty bad. Zack Snyder, his whole thing was he's going for a deconstruction of these characters, which I think you can do. All-Star Superman. I reviewed that comic on this channel as part of this whole Superman review series I'm doing. Read that comic and reviewed it. That is a deconstruction of Superman. Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor is a new storyline. That's a deconstruction of Superman as a character and Lex Luthor as a character. you can deconstruct the characters and explore different sides of them that maybe don't get explored that often. But you also, when you do that, you have to have an understanding of who the character is. And it's very clear when you listen to Zack Snyder talk about comic books, it's very much what his films are, which is he really likes the cool visuals, he likes sex, he likes violence, and that's what he thinks and likes. He's very much a frat bro that throws these things into his own movies because he thinks they're cool. And that, to me, is not a Superman fan. He is clearly not a Superman fan. Or if he is a person that does not fundamentally like the fucking character enough to fully understand. There are so many sequences in this movie where I'm just like, Superman as a character would never do that. You're not really doing anything to show a different side of his character. I mean, that's the thing. These Zack Snyder fans are like, what's a deconstruction? It's not a deconstruction when it's fucking some dude pisses off Clark in a bar and then he goes over and destroys some fucking dude's car. What's that say about his character? That he's human? There's ways to explore his humanity that aren't him just being a dick who would never do these things. Like, that's not the character. You're not saying anything about the character. You're just kind of doing that shit. Like, I don't like sequences like that. Him snapping Zod's neck. I understand that you're trying to say stuff about the character, but what are you actually saying about the character? I mean, your challenge is a moral code of not killing people. Well, first of all, if you were going to do that, you'd have to establish that as a major vocal point in the movie, which he did not do very well. And then it's like, you have to make it actually feel like a last resort. In that sequence, he's about to laser people to death. But I'm sorry, Superman is strong enough to snap this dude's fucking neck. You can't just point his head up to the sky and let him shoot his laser beam into the sky. Because eventually you just give the fuck up. There was no reason that he felt in that sequence he really needed to feel more like a last resort for that sequence to work, and it just didn't. And this movie's so ugly. It's gray. The gray and ugly vibe is just because that's what Zack Snyder likes. That doesn't say anything about the character. It doesn't deconstruct. This is the thing. Everybody just argues the deconstruction thing, but what is the deconstruction here? What is it saying? And if the answer is it's not saying anything, or it's just what Zack Snyder thinks is cool, then it's time to stop using the word deconstruction and just call it what it is. A bad movie. Or what Zack Snyder thinks looks cool. And what Zack Snyder thinks looks cool is not Superman. You can like that, you can appreciate that, that's fine. But you just have to acknowledge it's not Superman, this isn't what the character is, and I just think we need to stop pretending that just because he deconstructed it's good. I mean, at this point, I think people have accepted with that last Joker movie that what Todd Phillips was doing with the Joker was not good, right? Just because you deconstruct things, doesn't mean it's good. And that is a perfect example of that. And it's just so flawed in every form of it, this whole movie. And I really get so frustrated with it because I want to like this movie because I'm a Superman fan. The other aspect of this movie is every action scene is so fucking long. Like, even the beginning of the movie, it's just a bunch of cool visuals of Jor-El flying around Krypton and doing all this stuff, and you're like, yeah, that looks cool. Again, a Zack Snyderism, yeah, it looks cool, but there's no real point to it. It's just this needlessly long sequence, and from the first moment that you literally, in this movie, you realize what's wrong. Some of the biggest issues with this movie. It's too long, and the sequences go on too long for no fucking reason, and it's a lot of cool visuals without really rhyme or reason to make them work or connect very well, and it just sucks. Like, it's just terrible. The ending I already mentioned with 9/11, people hated that so much that Zack Snyder devoted part of the next movie to showing a different side to it and going like, see, you guys didn't like this, here we go. But it's just like, it's just bad, and you should just never put it there. Like, why is Superman destroying all these cities in like this apocalyptic event? And it's like Superman would really worry about lives and trying to protect them while Zod was doing all this. He wouldn't go smash into buildings like that. He's, that's not who this character is. And some people have argued, well, it's more realistic to the character. Fuck being realistic. None of this shit is realistic. And if you want to explore a realistic side of the character, fine. You have to really be in a place to understand this somewhat. Like, Nolan did a good job with the Batman trilogy. He clearly was able to kind of control some of the Batmanisms. Not all of that trilogy worked, but it's like he was able to kind of understand certain aspects of the character and how to explore that, make it look more realistic, and do some things. He wasn't like the most understandable of the Batman understanding of the character, I would argue, in media, but it's still like he had an understanding enough to make it work, where you watch this and it's just clear there's no understanding of this character. And that really is the biggest issue of this movie, is just all these bad sequences. It's overly long, it's overly plotting, and it's just not really Superman. And if I'm going to watch a Superman movie, I expect to see Superman or some point of the character. And if you're not going to do that, if you're going to be something like that, fine. In comic books, it's a little bit easier to swallow when the character doesn't feel like the character, because, there's alternate universes, alternate storylines, and that's fine. So you can do that kind of stuff. But in movie form, it's really like, this was the character that we were stuck with for a decade because of this movie. And that just makes it so sad and frustrating. And I'm like, now we're getting a reboot, thank God. But it is like so sad that it got to this point, and it just fucking sucks.